If you are seeing this video, send help because I keep going off on a true crime rant. Hello friends, my name is Angie and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys my weekly wrap up. This past week, I have read 5 books. I've had some great hits and a couple of misses, so let's jump right in. The first book that I picked up this week was The Change Up by Megan Quinn. This is the story of a woman named Kinsley who has recently gotten this amazing job opportunity at a shelter in Chicago, but the only problem is she does not live in Chicago. I believe she lives in Michigan when our story sets out. But she has always been in her same hometown and is desperate for something new. So she decides to apply for this job and see if she even gets the opportunity to do it. Now, once she does, she reaches out to tell her best friend, Maddox. And Maddox and Kinsley share everything together. They have been close since they were younger, and they have always been in each other's lives. And Maddox currently lives in Chicago, where he is the pitcher for the Rebels, which is a baseball team. And because Maddox knows Kinsley so well, he knows that she doesn't have a lot of money saved up, especially to live in such a large city. But he also wants her to leave her Michigan town and pursue better opportunities for herself, so he offers to let her stay with him. However, Maddox is a little bit concerned about the situation because he and Kinsley are polar opposites. He is the playboy of his baseball team. He has a rotation of a few different women that he's always sleeping with. He's covered in tattoos, and he's very loud and brash, where Kinsley, on the other hand, is very kind and sympathetic. She is concerned about recycling and saving the environment, along with her biggest passion, which is saving animals. Sharing the same apartment space means learning to live with each other for the first time, and it also leads to the just one bed trope, which I'm a huge fan of, which leads to feelings developing between the two friends. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I listened to it on AnyPlay, and I think I liked the narrator for Maddox just a little bit more. I had some issues with Kinsley as a character, but Megan Quinn's inclusion of her being so kind-hearted and so devoted to helping animals really helped me be able to look past that to a certain extent. But I really enjoyed Maddox, along with the audio narrator. They got to read his part. And in the prologue, I was laughing out loud. I was sitting on my floor like I am now, but on the other side and just chuckling away. It was a really good time. This is book 5 in the series, and I have yet to read anything else by Megan Quinn, but I really want to go back and start from book 1. I gave The Change Up a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I picked up this week was 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard. This is about Sierra and Oliver, who begin dating shortly before the first case of the coronavirus hits the shores of Ireland. And once it does, the government, like so many other places in the world during this time, decides to implement social distancing measures as well as recommending a 2-week lockdown. So Sierra and Oliver, who have just recently began dating, decide that they are going to quarantine together. No one knows they're dating. They want to just keep it, between them for now, so they don't have the societal pressures and expectations that come along with dating. And they want to use this 2 weeks to get to know each other for who they are without anyone really being able to interfere with that. But by the end of this, one of them is dead. I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was one of the disappointments that I mentioned in my intro. I was really looking forward to this book because I have not read anything else that has mentioned the coronavirus, and I was curious to see how it would be used as a plot device and how lockdown and social distancing would be used. And there were parts that kept me very intrigued. It is an intriguing book, I will give it that. I definitely want to read more by Catherine Ryan Howard. I think the way she can craft a story is really well done. There were a few little things that I did not like, however. So this book is told in multiple points of view. We have Sierra, we have the police officer that is investigating what happened at this apartment complex 56 days after Sierra and Oliver met. And then we have Oliver, and Sierra and Oliver's chapters are told from the past, okay? When we get Oliver's chapters in the beginning, it was a lot of rehashing what happened in Sierra's chapters, and that just kind of made me a little bit annoyed. I wanted to read something new. As the book progresses, you do get new details to the story. I just wish it would have happened sooner. I was skimming lines of dialogue that I had already read in Sierra's chapter, so I didn't really like that. Now here is where we are going to get into spoilers. So until the time that you see me lower this book, that means that whatever is coming out of my mouth is a spoiler about 56 days. So if you don't want to know, just fast forward a little bit until you don't see this book anymore, okay? Both Sierra and Oliver are hiding secrets, and you initially think you know what the other is hiding, but you might not. When Oliver was 12 years old, he lived on an estate in Ireland, and he and his friend were walking home from school one day, and there was a younger boy that was following them and annoying them. He started throwing rocks at the two, and eventually Oliver and his friend ended up murdering this 10-year-old boy. So Oliver and his friend were quickly caught by the police and taken into custody. However, things didn't quite add up. Both of them had slightly differing stories, and Oliver's friend actually got a longer jail sentence than he did because a lot of people believed that his friend was the ringleader and Oliver just went along with the plot to kill this little boy. So Oliver actually got out of prison when he was 18 years old, and his friend, I believe his name is Sean, took his life when he was 18. I think he still had 15 more years in his sentence. Oliver's whole adult life has been plagued by what happened when he was a child. He has never really been able to escape that and tries to move to different places to just get a fresh start. He moves to London, but his friend group finds out what happened. So a friend of his gets him on at a company in Dublin. And when he meets Sierra, he initially thinks that she is a journalist because a lot of people want to get his story, even though his name and photo were not allowed to be distributed by the media. Don't worry though, Sierra's not a journalist. She is actually the sister of someone involved in this group. And while you're initially reading, you think, she might be the sister of the little boy whose life was taken. But no, she is actually the sister of Oliver's friend. And she is determined to let her dying mother know what really happened that day because no one knows for sure. So she wants to get close to Oliver to find out what exactly happened. However, romantic feelings begin to develop from both parties. Oliver eventually comes clean to Sierra, and she feels that she needs to act like it's this big deal and leave his apartment where they are quarantining together and get some space to think, because she really needs to think about where she wants to go from here. She has found out what has happened to that little boy, and she can go and tell her mother, but she also has all of these feelings for Oliver. So she decides she's going to go back to the apartment and tell Oliver about her feelings to see if they can make their relationship work. He has unburdened himself of this secret, and she really wants to move forward with him in her life. However, when she is back at the apartment, he sees something in her bag, and he pulls it out. It is a notebook that she has written down all of these notes, that things that she has told him, and he begins to realize that it's actually this cover story. She's not who she said she is at all. And while he's figuring all of this out, he has actually taken Rohypnol because he has terrible sleep apnea, and this is the only medication that can really help him be able to rest and not completely just, break down. So he's a little bit drugged. He goes into the bathroom to try and wake himself up with a cold shower because he knows he needs to talk to her about this. Why was she lying to him? Was she really a journalist this whole time? He trips and falls, and the shower is still on a little bit, and she is determined to save him. She feels terrible that he has had this accident and terrible that he's finding out about her identity while he has taken this medication. Sierra is desperately trying to get Oliver out of this shower to help him so he doesn't injure himself further. He already has this gash on his head, But as she is trying to help him, he has one more confession for her. It turns out that Oliver himself, not Sean, was the ringleader behind this little boy's murder, and that Sean was in the position of backup, the one that just kind of went along with things, not Oliver. Up until this point, I thought that this book did a really good job at examining how convicted felons are reintegrated into society and the stereotypes that surround them. There were groups on Facebook that were letting people know, hey, we think we've seen Boy B, which the media had to refer to Oliver as. They couldn't use his name or print his photo, so everyone knew him as Boy B. And there were Facebook groups dedicated to not only Oliver, but to other felons as well. And it really made me think, because murder has the lowest recidivism rate of any crime, meaning it is the least likely to be recommitted. Most murders take place in the heat of the moment with no premeditation. But consequently, they have the hardest time at finding jobs and housing and equal opportunity. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the book. However, when it was revealed that the murder was Oliver's idea, it just didn't sit well with me because there was no remorse on his end. I had developed so much sympathy for this character and what he was going through. And just when we think we know exactly who he is and we know all of the cards that he has to lay out on the table, it turns out he's been holding one up his sleeve the entire time. And I really didn't enjoy that. I enjoy a good plot twist, but I felt that that was cheating a little bit. And yeah, it just rubbed me wrong. I felt that I had grown attached to this character only to have them lie and feel no remorse for their actions in the end. We are officially done with the spoilers and can move on to book 3, which was The Best of Us by Kennedy Fox. This is the second book in their Love and Isolation series, and I ended up rating this 3 out of 5 stars. Our hero in the book is a man called Ryan, who is a doctor suffering from PTSD. About 2 years ago, a virus had a terrible outbreak, very similar to the coronavirus, but they do not call it by name. And he witnessed many of his patients dying, and he really couldn't do anything about that. The heroine in this book, Kendall, is his sister's best friend, and he has grown up with her and has always thought of her as this spoiled, entitled, rich girl. He comes from money as well, but is determined to make his own way in the world. Ryan's sister and Kendall's best friend, Cammie, is getting married. I believe they are the couple centered on in book 1. And Kendall and Ryan decide that they are going to go decorate this cabin for the honeymoon. Now, this cabin is in upstate New York, and it can get a lot of snow, but no one really ever thought that it would get completely snowed in for 2 weeks like it did when Kendall and Ryan arrive. Overall, this book was just fine. I thought that it really didn't have strong character development. He has always thought of Kendall as, a brat, essentially, and she just mentions her charity work, and all of a sudden it's, oh, well, you're not the girl I thought you were. Do you really know her at all? No, you don't, kid. No, you don't. And it really didn't go into Ryan's PTSD, which I know is like a very tricky subject to get right, but that's all. We were told a lot in this book rather than shown, and I get, for the sake of brevity, that we could not be shown a lot, but I really wanted more focus on who they were as individuals. Maybe we could have cut back on the steamy scenes just a little bit. That's all I have to say. The next book that I read was The Assassin in 5F by Nana Malone. This is going to be a part of an upcoming reading vlog, so I'm not going into any details. I'm only going to tell you guys that I give it 4 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I finished this week was by an author who featured in last week's video. I picked up What If You and Me by Ronnie Lauren and ended up enjoying the hell out of it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. In this book, we are following Andy, who we saw in the first book, Yes, and I Love You. She is Holland's friend at the workaround shared office space. Now, Andy is a true crime podcaster. She is also a horror movie enthusiast and a horror novelist. She is currently working on her next horror novel, but is struggling with severe writer's block. And what do you do when you are struggling with severe writer's block? You go to the source of your inspiration. So Andy decides that she is going to turn on Scream and just forget her book for the time being, enjoy a good slasher film. And she does not feel bad about turning up the volume one bit because her neighbor in her duplex is noisy and he does not care who hears him. However, when Hill Dawson hears his next door neighbor screaming her head off, he runs over there and bangs on the door just to make sure that she is okay. Hill is a former firefighter who was forced to retire when a tragic accident caused him to lose the lower half of one of his legs. He is very bitter and grumpy and has shut himself off from almost everyone in his life. And Andy is his sunshine next door neighbor. But she has struggled with her own issues that make her extremely anxious, almost to the point of paranoia. She is constantly looking over her shoulder. She needs to make sure that people get the message from her podcast. What can I learn from this? And know how to protect themselves in real life. Okay, this is their story, you guys, and it is delightful, but it is also pretty heavy. It's not a light, fluffy rom-com. There are funny scenes, but their relationship is so beautiful. I really recommend this book. So those are the books that I read this week. I want to know what you guys read and if you enjoyed it or if you didn't. Why? Have you read any of these books or are you going to add them to your TBR? As always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video, and if you liked it, let me know by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel if you have not done so already. I will see you in my very next video. Bye!